and then I'll probably announce it. That'll be the end of 3 minutes. And then I'll let that know. And if you, after I make that announcement, maybe about 5 seconds after that, you'll be in control of cutting that off. Does that sound okay?
That sounds fine. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I'll do then is I'll say, okay, thank you for your comment or something like that. Your 3 minutes are up, and then we'll have like a 5-second delay before you turn them off. That way that'll give somebody the speed rush to finish it up. So.
Mr. Chairman, can you also remind the general public to state their first and last name and their address?
If I forget to do that, please butt in and remind me.
Okay.
And if you have to do it more than 8 times, no, never mind. I'm just joking, but.
No problem.
No, state name and address. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
So we are recording and we are live streaming on YouTube. So whenever you are ready, Mr. Chairman.
I am ready. I have 4 o'clock. So with that, I'd like to call a meeting to order of the Isabella County Board of Commissioners work session, electronic meeting, January 19th, 2021. We all could stand, please, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Lux, a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Harry Hutchinson, District 1, reporting from my home in Ottawa.
thank you. Commissioner Engler,
Here, I am here from my home in Ottawa Township, Isabella County, Michigan.
thank you. Commissioner Jelzinski,
Present, participating from my home in Chippewa Township, Isabella County, Michigan.
thank you. Commissioner Horton,
Present, participating from my residence in Union Township, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, Isabella County.
Commissioner Marino,
Present, participating remotely from my residence in Mount Pleasant, Isabella County.
Commissioner Swaney,
Present, participating from my residence in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
thank you. Commissioner Hope,
Present, attending remotely from my home in the city of Mount Pleasant, Isabella County, Michigan.
thank you. All present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Clerk Lux. Next up, approval of the agenda. We have under presentations and special reports, the Isabella County Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility Project Update with Integrated Architecture and Clark Construction Company. We also have the County Administrator and Controller Report. We have under appointments to boards and commissions, we have none. Under committee reports, Finance and Administration Committee.
Finance and Administration is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Under Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
And under Human Resources and Public Works Committee.
Human Resources and Public Works Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Under Intergovernmental Affairs, we have none. Under Administrator Controller, we have none. Under Unfinished Business, we have none. New Business, we have none. General Public Comments, nothing. Announcements. So can I entertain a motion for the approval of this agenda?
So move, Jelzinski.
Support, Marino.
Swaney.
We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. We have an agenda. All right, next up, general public comments. Nicole, do we have any general public comments?
Chairman, we do have a number of telephone callers into the meeting. At this time, this would be the time when those callers would press *9 on their telephone keypad if they wish to raise their hand to speak at general public comment.
Okay.
Chairman, at this time, there are no hands raised.
Okay, and if there are any hands raised, I'd like to state that this will be limited to 3 minutes of public comment. At that time, I will call make an announcement that the 3 minutes are up, and there'll be about a 5-second delay before the end. The person has to end up speaking. So Nicole, we'll look for hands raised.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. At this time, still no hands raised.
All right, we'll give it a few more seconds. All right, hearing none, we'll close the public comment section and move on to presentations and special reports. First up, the Isabella County Sheriff's Office, a correctional facility project update, Integrated Architecture and Clark Construction Company. Margaret, you want to introduce the speakers, or whoever wants to speak up first? That's fine with me. As far as I see, we have both representation there. So Rob, if you want to speak, or Mary Jane, if you want to, or who's ever leading this.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. This is Margaret. I was muted and I didn't unmute myself, so I apologize. I believe that Integrated Architect is going to go first. Is that true, Daryl?
It looks like Daryl may be muted. Would you like us to introduce ourselves?
Absolutely. Please.
Yes, please.
Hi, thank you for having us today. I'm Mary Kane Bukovich. I'm the project director with Clark Construction. And here on our team is Rob Conley. Rob, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and Heidi Hitz. Well,
this is Daryl. Can everybody hear me now? Sorry, I was on my phone.
Yes, sir.
Great. Greetings, everybody. Good evening. Daryl DeHaan, project manager for this project, director of architecture at Integrated. With me is Scott Vinn, director of design and principal lead on the project. And then as I was switching my headphones over, I heard some introductions by Clark. Don't want to steal their thunder, but we also have Troy Grunder on the phone with us from Rowe Engineering. He is the project civil engineer.
And I was just introducing Rob, who's our director of estimating, and Heidi Hitz, who will be our project manager.
Okay.
All right, great. Is everybody seeing my screen currently? You should be seeing an aerial plan.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Things work every once in a while, right? All right, so I'm going to give a pretty high level overview of the project. We can talk about as much or as little detail as we'd like. Please interrupt me if you have any questions as we go through it. So I'm going to start with the site plan. We're on a site at the corner of Remus Road and Somerton. The parcel is around 36 acres. What you're seeing here is the jail itself, the sheriff's office and correctional facility here in tan. Just going to highlight a few points of the site. We're located off Remus Road by about 600 feet. I just want to give people a sense of scale of the building and the size of the site and our approximation to the primary roadways, the public roadways. So around 600 feet to the north and around 700 feet to the east to Somerton. So this was done purposefully to give a little bit of a buffer to the surrounding agricultural district, some of the residences that we have here across the street and here, to really respect some of those movements and those existing residences. It also gives us the ability to control stormwater in an area here. This is going to be a fairly natural area, as well as some area here for future growth. I'm not sure what that may look like in 5 years, 10 years, 40 years down the road, but it gives the county opportunity for growth in this area. So it really represented the best placement for the building. Again, and just being respectful to the roadways and the movement. And it also provides us, some nice buffering with the wood line here. Just from a general layout standpoint, what we call the liner sometimes, or the wrapper, this L-shaped component, is what really contains the day-to-day operations of the jail and the sheriff's office. With the square here in the middle being the pod, so that really represents the component that houses inmates. 187 beds, about 63,000 square feet total for the jail. Real quick on the site, again, we have we put a lot of effort just into separating movements. So staff, sheriff's department, correctional vehicles happening along this part of the site, and then the public entry node here from Somerton. So again, a lot of effort in keeping those movements separated. We have a point for staff entry, a fenced area for sheriff department vehicle parking. We have a loading area here. This is our back of house kind of circulation road, Sally Port being located here. Work release program kind of happening again in the back of house, if you will, portion of the building. So some additional parking here and here. So again, keeping the public and the private separated, this being fenced just to provide the sheriff and his team the security that they need. And then this area being more open, and this being the more civic presence for the building. We do recognize some of the existing adjacent residences at a few points in the site. So what you're seeing here in these fairly organic shapes are some proposed berming. So that would be using natural material from the site to provide us a little bit of additional screening just for, again, movements, headlights, just the day-to-day operations with a facility like this, and just being mindful and respectful of those neighboring parcels. So we've organized that kind of in an area here, here, and here, and those are lightly planted with some evergreen trees, but they're mostly a natural earth berm. We do have the overhead high transmission lines here. Our consumers lines, we are located well off of the easement that's required for those. And then again, the stormwater detention happening in this area. So diagrammatically, I think that this slide is helpful in understanding just operationally how the jail is set up. So again, we have a 2-story pod. We call it the pod. It's really a mezzanine level to a lower level for the inmate housing. So everything in tan or the beige tones that you see are inmate areas. And the only reason this is noted that is this would be kitchen laundry area where trustees would have access to during the day. This extension here really makes up the location for building systems. So mechanical, electrical, plumbing, utilities, everything that comes into the building from a service standpoint as well as a delivery standpoint happens in this area. And then the blue, dark blue and light blue really being the sheriff's office. So one entering from the public would enter here. They'd have immediate access to a receptionist. And then all the blue function here holding the sheriff's day-to-day office functions. This area here is really intake, booking, holding. So a vehicle would come in the Sally Port. Arrestee would be brought into this, be booked, and all of those movements would happen in this area here. So really a pretty hard separation between the inmate side and the sheriff's office side. And this was also done intentionally to present a little bit more of a civic front to the building. So trying to keep these functions kind of wrapped around the corner. So we have daylight and windows and a nice civic facade that I'll show here in a second along this corner. And then with a fairly opaque facade. Along this area here and along the holding cells here, fully opaque rather. Quick view, and you're looking at, again, the north east corner of the building. So more of the public interface, you're looking at public parking here, and around the corner here would be staff parking. So again, transparent, open, we're proposing a combination of brick masonry and metal panel. So again, enduring materials, long-lasting materials, functional, low maintenance materials, and one that'll last the county for a long time. And then peeking up behind here, You see the pod. Again, we're trying to nestle that back there, protect it from views. That's the kind of the 2-story portion, and that would be clad in metal panel. I'm going to zoom in here quickly on the front entry. So again, jail design, even 20 years ago, is not what it is currently. So just a lot of mindfulness being paid to not being institutional specifically and very intentionally, and having this be more of a civic presence. So firm, enduring, lasting, but not unapproachable from a public side. And this would be that public entry. So again, a lot of brick, long-lasting materials where there are no painted materials or sidings or anything of that nature proposed around the jail. So again, a real brief view of it from the exterior. Floor plan wise, there's probably, close to 250 rooms here that we really didn't want to go through exhaustively. Happy to answer any questions, of course, to anything related to the layout and the function. Then I'm going to back up to the site. And I know that was a lot of information in a short period of time, but we recognize that you have a long agenda. So wanted to turn it over for comments and questions.
Commissioners, any questions in regards to this? I can't see hands, so anyway, yes, I see Jerry. Sorry, I can't, go ahead, Jerry, you're muted.
All right, there we go. The site you said was under 40 acres?
Yeah, 36 acres.
36 acres. Was that our original acquisition, or is that smaller than what we had known to be purchased? Or?
I believe, that is the size of the property as acquired, as listed. We have not modified its boundary or its constraints since that. So Margaret, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
It's not any, I'm sorry, sir. My understanding is this is the size of the property as it was originally presented.
All right, thank you. My concern or question deals with placing the building right in the center. I understand what you're trying to do with the offsets from adjoining property owner and having some places to get rid of the water that we need to manage. But apparently on the south side, you said in case the county would like to do something in the future. I'm just wondering if there is enough room down there for a county administration building and a court building to fit on the site.
Yeah, there actually would be. We tested a couple of different scenarios, and one other item I wanted to point out was we do have some additional growth capacity here if and when that ever becomes a need. We have planned for that, whether it's for inmates or sheriff's function or whatever have you. There's some additional room there. But to answer your question more directly, yes, additional administrative and courthouse functions, and we've tested that would fit in this area.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Commissioner Hope.
Commissioner Hope here. Behind those pods, is that a solid wall, or is there access behind them to get at the utilities and things?
Yeah, good question. There is a chaseway that surrounds, 75, 80%, and it accesses every inmate area. So that all happens internally. So on the outside, we have and that's really the secured perimeter is the back of these cells. So the back of that cell is the secure perimeter, and access to the utilities, piping, infrastructure, et cetera, all happens in a maintenance chaseway that surrounds the pod.
Great. And then is there light that comes through that middle section?
That's correct. There are skylights. We get all of our daylight requirement for the cells overhead, with the exception of this is an exercise area here that would have a roll up. It's a high door. It's located, 12 feet or so off the floor. It's a roll-up overhead door with a screen that would let in both natural light and ventilation. So with the exception of the skylights, this is the only exterior opening, and these doors here are just for staff access.
Okay. The other question I have is that I don't know how much you've talked to the mechanical contractors. Been in touch with them. I'm wondering how big a thing air exchange rates are. Are they a bigger deal now since COVID than they were a couple of years ago, or?
Yeah, and that's a big topic in the industry currently. So we have, and I can follow up on that. We don't have a mechanical engineer on the phone or on the call rather, but I can get more detail on that. But that does bring up a good point, and something I want to highlight is the inclusion of 10 special needs cells. So we have 5 on the lower level here and 5 on the upper level here, and those are those kind of took formation a little bit more and made us focus and think through those a bit more, just as COVID was at its onset. So those are meant to be climatically separate from the remainder of the inmate population. So if there were a case, it has negative air pressure, it's all handled, the mechanical system for those special needs cells are all handled independently from general population. So not only do they serve, an ADA function, but they also, from a pandemic standpoint, they're a really nice thing to have.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thanks, Daryl. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
You bet.
Thank you. Seeing commissioners, I can't see Commissioner Engler. Commissioner Engler, you have anything to add? I see Commissioner Swaney. Anybody else?
I have another question.
Commissioner Jalazinski.
At the last update we had, which was a while ago, we did talk about the fact that there was not a storage building for the Sheriff's Department equipment. Was there anything in the planning for sheltering the vehicles from inclement weather? Seems like that would be important. I don't know, has there been any more discussion on the part of the committee to provide those type of additional buildings? And if they were to be provided, where would they be located?
So, Mr. Chairman, may I take that?
Yes, you may. I could have answered it too, but go ahead, Margaret.
Sure. So when we were looking at budget constraints earlier in the discussions, commissioners, the facility that you're talking about, Commissioner Jalazinski, was to house not necessarily what we would call the duty vehicles. So not necessarily the patrol cars and those types of vehicles. Those will be in that fenced parking lot, which Daryl showed earlier. But to look at housing other equipment that isn't used every single day, like dive team equipment or hazmat equipment. And we also had looked at possibly moving the facilities department out there so that they had more space, because everyone who's been down to the facilities department knows they need more space. However, looking at cost constraints, we decided to take that building out of the team decided to take that building out of the project and look at building that separately after we get on the site, that perhaps we could do it more efficiently and financially more efficient at that point.
Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioners? Okay, I just have a couple of questions. Are we still under all the pods and the cells? Are they still going to be prefabbed? That's my understanding, they were going to be prefabricated. Is that still a correct statement?
That's still a correct statement. Yep, we have not deviated from that strategy. It still represents the best value, and from a schedule and a cost standpoint, so that we are moving forward with that design type.
Okay, and like I think you had touched upon it as far as the siting goes. There was some preliminary site plans. It was kind of interesting watching some of the technology. Again, I know it's been out there for years, but how you can fit a footprint around it. I know that they have moved it. At one time, they were looking at doing the further north, and other times putting it back further. And also, Jerry, you'd mentioned about putting in, Commissioner Jalazinski had mentioned about putting in the county building and possibly the courthouse or any other some different types of buildings. The footprints are there. I mean, they actually have footprints, and they've actually had Commissioner Hope and I actually sat in on a meeting a few months ago in regards to saw some sites and some different ways they can do that. So the footprint capability is there. I guess my only statement, you said there was 10 special needs. Is that including or inclusive of like for mental health? Or is when you said 10 special needs, that's the inclusive amount for like some mental health patients or anything like that? What is I guess the breakdown of you said 187 beds. Do you have like an actual breakdown of different types of beds available, or how?
Yeah, I can, and it's arranged by really classification type.
Right, that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers offhand, but I'd be happy to follow up with that. And then
Okay.
to answer your question on the special needs cells, it's a mental and physical health special needs. So it's just any type of health need that an inmate might have.
Right, yeah, looking at a build like this too, and you're amazed. Again, I've had the not pleasure, but I've had the opportunity to tour the Midland facility with some other commissioners, and what's encountering, and even our Mount Pleasant jail now, our county jail now, is the amount of infrastructure, security, things that just you can just see the dollar amounts flipping as we go. That adds to the cost of anything. Just not building a pole barn out there and putting in a few places. It's pretty intense with the security and everything like that involved. So,
absolutely.
Okay, good. We're not gonna. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for the overview, commissioners. Anything else before we let these folks go?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just one question, Commissioner
Yes, sir.
Engler.
Yes.
Yeah, I know we've had some problems in the past with the old jails with the population between male and female and segregation. With that fluctuating population, are we able to segregate the pods sufficiently to accommodate that?
Yes, we do have flexibility for the gender and how that pendulum might swing. And that has to do with sight lines and adjacencies. So with this type of configuration, with limited actually visual access to the pods, we're able to keep those movements and those sight lines and distractions for inmates eliminated. So we have designed for that.
Okay, I saw Frank shake his head. Anybody else? All right, I can't see Steve or Jim, but I'm assuming they have nothing. Oh, there we go. Now I can see everyone. That makes it much easier. Now I'm playing Hollywood Squares again. God, that really dates me, but here we go. Okay, hearing none, thanks again for your presentation. And we're going to get to know all you guys by names and faces and everything. So one day we're going to see each other in person again. But again, this is a long, complicated project, and I can't remind the commissioners enough and this community enough how important this is. The largest undertaking this county, I think, has ever undergone. So again, this is very important to us. So thank you for taking the time today to do this. All right, next up, county and
Thank you, commissioners.
Yeah. Next up, county administrator and controller report. Margaret.
Yes, I would like to apologize for disappearing a little bit there. For some reason, my Wi-Fi went out. So if that happens again, I apologize. That hasn't happened in months. I don't know what caused that. So I apologize. So with the administrator controller report, I will tell you that collective bargaining agreements negotiations were held, as you are aware, with the 3 units in the sheriff's office and the 2 units at dispatchers. I will say we are moving to mediation with some of those units, which is just a natural progression, and I'll keep you updated as we move forward. Calendar year end efforts, to prepare for the final Board of Commissioners meeting with the tribute to our former chairperson, Mr. Green, and the necessary contract completions before the end of the year, and making sure everything came to the Board of Commissioners that you had to vote on, so there weren't any lapses. That takes a lot of time and energy, and it's not just my time and energy. Trust me, it's the entire administrator controller's department or office. So I appreciate everybody's assistance with that. Continue to have bi-weekly Zoom meetings with the city manager and the charter township unions manager. Originally started having those in March to talk about COVID issues. And it might be interesting to you to know that we continue to have those twice a week. And we still talk both times about a number of COVID situations and issues coming forward. So those meetings have proven to be such great use of our time so that we stay, the three of us stay connected and continue to work together in our community. Continued, as you can see, with various Sheriff's Office jail project tasks, Zoom meetings, looking at things. In case you're interested, today the sheriff and I met with some of the members on that team, primarily Daryl, I think, and the interior design folks out of Wisconsin, and did kind of some final looking at what kind of formica we were going to have and what type of carpet and what color the walls are going to be. And those things may not sound like important decisions, but trust me, with all that flooring, it's pretty important to know what type of floor we're putting where, and where there's concrete and where there's carpet and where there's vinyl and et cetera. So those meetings continue on at that level. I've had multiple Zoom meetings with representatives from Wayne County, the Michigan Association of Counties, myself and the other county rep on MIDC, to try to assist Wayne County with getting their final approval for their plan and cost analysis. As we all know, that contract year started October 1st. Wayne County, as you can well imagine, is the largest program in the state for services to indigent defendants. And I would think that how Wayne County goes is how the rest of us are going to go when it comes to statistics and successes and the rest of us. And there have been some issues there for them, trying to work through that. They're building a new justice center, and I can't even tell you how many zeros you could put on our project to get to what they're going to be working on. And, you know, they're trying to get all their public defender things organized with that. So I helped them some with that. I hope it's going to be successful for them. I've participated in a overview of the Sheriff's Office jail project at the Charter Township of Union at one of their meetings in December, because, you know, we're going to be building in their township. We want to be good neighbors and make sure they know what's going on also. So we had a very brief overview meeting with them. I attended a Michigan Indigent Defense Commission board meeting that I serve on. Worked on getting the Board of Commissioners organizational meeting organized, I guess you would say, and that went well. I'm serving currently on the Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works Interlocal Governmental Agreement Committee. The current agreements are going to expire between the 5 counties at the end of December of this year. And because there's so much to make sure that we're all protecting our counties and every county wants to be doing the best thing for their folks, we wanted to get started early. So we're working on that, and I'll be bringing that to you eventually before the end of the year. I did attend a local development finance authority board meeting for the city. And a lot of my time and energy is on managing COVID related situations, both dealing with some positive results still amongst our employee group. I will say our numbers have been contained from where they were in October, November, and early December. We have had fewer cases the last 4 weeks than we had in the 8 weeks prior to that. So that's encouraging. We do have some employees who are experiencing some after effects of their illness with COVID. So trying to help them and support them through that. You know, when you have a positive person or you have a person who is a definite exposure, then you have all the quarantine issues. And that just kind of starts the snowball effect. So managing those. I did have the opportunity last week, and it was a great opportunity. You know, the Central Michigan District Health Department, they are doing such a great job with this. They're managing 6 counties worth of residents across a big geographical area, and I think they're doing a great job at that. And I know that Commissioner Moreno serves on that board, and I know that Commissioner Green did previously, and Commissioner Horton is going to be now. And it's a yeoman effort for what they're doing. They did have on their website a couple weeks back, I guess it was just the week of Christmas, about going on and registering for vaccines as they become available. So before I go through discussing how that went for the county, I would just like to say to anyone who's watching this meeting that if you are interested in finding out about vaccinations, go on the website of the Central Michigan District Health Department and fill out one of their questionnaires, and help them be prepared for when they can be contacting people to register as they go through the sections. all of the first responders in the county, firefighters, law enforcement, central dispatch, ambulance, all those folks who wanted that vaccine have been vaccinated. A week ago, this past Friday, I got a phone from the health department at about 3:00 in the afternoon that said, Margaret, we have 54 slots we can make available for your face-to-face workers that are not law enforcement, first responders, et cetera, at the county. And how many of those slots do you think you could fill? I said, I can fill every one of them. And so Friday into Saturday, I worked with department heads, elected officials, and we filled every one of those slots. And we had 17 people on a waiting list. So I'm happy to say that we received those vaccines. We have a number of our employees have received the first dose. All of our first responders who wanted to receive a vaccine have received it at this point. So again, working with doing that, and then having doing summary working. You'll see it on our website, on the front page of our website over the next day or so. The last time I checked mid-afternoon, we hadn't got the update on yet, but I want to change those red banners across the top on the front of our website that have kind of looked the same for a number of months. That's okay, that's interesting, they have good information, but I think that we want to catch people's attention. So sometimes if you see the same thing over and over, you just kind of go, oh yeah, I've seen that before. So we're making some updates to the website regarding COVID, and they ought to be on if they're not on yet already today, by tomorrow, hopefully. So again, we want to make sure that people understand that the facilities are still available by appointment only. Appointments to get into the facilities need to be made for services. You know, we still want the public as much as possible to utilize services based on our website, our telephones, our emails. But if they have things that have to be done in site or on site in person, we do make that available by appointment. So we want to make sure the public knows how to access services, whichever way they need to access them. So I think that's my update for this today. And my internet stayed connected, so I'm happy.
There you go. Thank you, Margaret. Any commissioners have any questions for Administrator Controller McAvoy? All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to our next item up. Appointments to board and commissions. We have none. Committee reports, Finance and Administration Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 is consider accepting and placing on file the December 10th, 2020 routine personnel items, the December 24th, 2020 routine personnel items, and the January 7th, 2021 routine personnel items as presented. What we have here, the December 10th list has new hire Stephen Kretzer at that Inspector 3 level in community development. And he's an individual that the board approved a slightly higher starting wage because of his extensive experience in that field. We also had 1 resignation, 1 retirement, and 4 step increases on that particular list. The 1224 list had just 1 step increase, and the January 7th list had 1 step increase and 1 resignation. So any questions on the routine personnel items? Okay, hearing none, that item will move forward to tonight's agenda.
Jerry, you're muted.
I'm trying to keep my school clock quiet. Sorry. The next item is consider ratifying and placing on file the December 11th, 2020 invoice list in the amount of $170,369.34. The December 18th, 2020 invoice list in the amount of $399,158.17. December 25th, 2020 invoice list, the amount of $257,458.82. The January 1st, 2021 invoice list in the amount of $81,797.78. And the January 8th, 2021 invoice list in the amount of $1,008,185.43. And the adjustment list dated January 14th, 2021. We reviewed this in the committee. The bills that show up on the various lists. We'll start with the December 11th, are very customary and be pretty familiar to the county board commissioners. I don't see anything on there. We did have a couple of bills for private agency youth services that probably is funded through the child care fund. But other than that, these things are pretty routine. Any questions on that particular list? The next list, December 18th, again, shows customary payments to contractors and drain repair projects. The one that did raise a question was the KLP venues. There was a charge of $11,320 for 283 property notices served. And the treasurer was questioned on that, and he did provide a response, I believe, to all of us, that this is the best way, the most economical way to serve the papers when you have delinquent taxes rather than some other process server. So that covered that cost. Any questions on other bills in that list? All right, moving on to the December 25th list. Again, they're very customary. I didn't see anything on my own that we haven't dealt with in the past or have knowledge about. I'm sure that under Michigan Municipal Risk Management, the retention second installment for liability and property insurance, that probably has something to do with legal matters with the county to fund that, put money in that fund.
This is a usual and customary payment that we make out to fund that fund. Yeah, we want to keep that at a certain level. And so it's not unusual for us to do this as we move through the year.
Okay. And then, of course, we have the larger amount of $60,450 for the second installment for liability and property insurance from the MMRMA. I don't see anything else on there that I would wish to bring up. Does anybody have a question on that December 25th list? Moving forward then to the January 1st list, we're spending a lot of money. That list only has 3 items listed, and every one of them seems to be ones that we should recognize and see as customary. So anything on the January 1st list? Okay, moving on to the January 8th list. January 8th list, again, repeats some of the payments that we've made for some of the vendors. And again, it's customary, regular, although we did in committee have some questions dealing with the payments to the various school districts. And there's also some that didn't reach the threshold of reporting on that front sheet that are in the body of the list of bills. And that's the Public Act 105 for personal residence exemption. And again, the treasurer was asked to explain that. And once the tax assessments are done, the state does a review of that and can challenge claims of personal residence exemption. And when that gets overturned, then of course there's an obligation to charge a tax and make that payment to those recipients. Margaret, I don't know if there's anything I missed in that explanation, or did it cover it pretty good?
I think you did great.
Okay. And then we have the usual tax first disbursement to the intermediate school districts and Montcalm Community College. On that, I don't see anything else that I wish to touch on. Is there anybody have questions on any of these items? On the adjustment list of January 14th, looks like Gordon Food is always on our adjustment list, and that is because of discounts, because of advanced payment for those, or timely payment of the invoice. All the rest were just minor errors that were caught in the transaction of business. I do want to apologize to Margaret. I looked at the bottom of the one that with the city of Mount Pleasant and the increase in invoices. I totally read that wrong once. And then I thought, you know, when I read something wrong, I look at it again, if especially a large dollar amount, and I did it again. So what I need to do when I read this report is I guess after 6 years, I'm still on a learning curve. I need to subtract the original billing invoice from the increased amount to get to the net increase. So I apologize for that, but Margaret did provide an explanation on how that works and why we sometimes get caught in the jam of having to pay a late fee. Any questions on the adjustment list? No questions? We'll move these on then to tonight's regular meeting.
Okay, that brings us to item number 3. Consider adopting the Municipal Employees Retirement System, MERS, Defined Benefit and Defined Contribution Plan Adoption Agreement Addendums, and authorize the Isabella County Administrator Controller to sign the addendums. MERS is contacting all the member municipalities to ensure that the data they have on file is accurate. These addendums will ensure that the data MERS maintains for the Isabella County retirement plans is as accurate as possible. There are no changes to retirement eligibility criteria or benefits. There are 6 divisions within the defined benefit retirement plan accounts, 2 employee groups, and 6 divisions within the defined contribution plans. And each of those divisions has an addendum which serves to clarify plan eligibility, and for the DEF contribution plans, the forms of compensation on which the 7% match would be applied. The addendums do not enhance, reduce, or change or otherwise alter the benefit in any way, and there's no financial impact with their adoption. Margaret, is there anything we need to add to that, or?
You did a great job. I would just want to emphasize again that they, MERS, which is the Michigan Municipal, I'm sorry. I was putting together my MMRMA and my MERS in my head. MERS is the Municipal Employee Retirement System, which many municipalities in the state of Michigan belong to. They are sending out these notifications. I'm not sure that everybody is getting one the same year. I know a number of municipalities received this round, and they just wanted to check information and make sure that they had the right information. So I will say defined benefits, you should kind of think of as the old-fashioned pension program that has been closed here in Isabella County to new employees, depending on where, if you were a non-rep, if you were one of our bargaining units, whatever, how long that's been closed. New employees are going into a defined contribution, which is more like a 401k. So we're just trying, they just wanted to make sure that the information they had was right. There were a few NIFNAs here we found on every one of them that wasn't quite really right. One of the NIFNAs, which I can explain, was that they had checked that we had car allowances that should go towards retirement. Well, we don't have any car allowances in the county. None of us get a car allowance. So the county doesn't pay your employees X number of dollars a month to use their own vehicle. We have mileage reimbursements. So that was just a mistake, and we cleared that up. That's kind of an example of the level of detail when we went through all these. And I know that this is a lot of information for you to go through, but I thought you would want to see it just in case you had any questions. But no, we're not changing any benefits. We're not changing any rules, any regulations. None of that's changed. It's just making sure the information they have on file is correct. So when our employees go to retire and MERS looks up the information, is accurate and correct.
Commissioner Jelzinski.
In the committee, I brought up a question. I did notice one outstanding difference between the various addendums, and asked a question about it, and that is under the non-represented addendum, it has part-time employees who regularly work fewer than 30 hours per week are included in the, I think it's the defined benefit plan, where the others do not have that inclusion. Cole answered that, in that we have, I think it was 2 employees that are grandfathered in. So that clause needed to be in there. And I suppose if we had the same situation with any of the rep unions, that would also be in there. But that was what I thought was a significant difference between the various addendums, but it makes sense to. Thank you.
Commissioner Engler.
Yeah, just wondering if we're scheduled to have mirrors come in like in the third, fourth quarter. I know last year they came in and was very informative, and with everything going on this year with the COVID and everything, I would, I don't know if you could schedule that, but have them come in and give a report, because I know we learned quite a bit out of them from that last report they gave, but I wouldn't want it to be done until towards, either the third or fourth quarter.
It's always informative when we have them come in, isn't it? So yes, we will be looking at doing that probably closer to the end of the third quarter. However, we can, chat with them and get on their list, get on their schedule perhaps. So that's a good point. I'm writing it down so I don't forget after the meeting. We'll do that.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing nothing else, that item will move forward to tonight's agenda.
The committee's next item is consider approving the fiscal year 2020 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant contract addendum A between the Michigan State Police and Isabella County Sheriff's Office, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. This is going to be repeated in item 5 and 6. The only thing that's going to be a change will be the departments involved. 5 will be the addendum for Isabella County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and 6 will be addendum for the Isabella County Trial Court, since they represent different classes of employees. But there were some issues, and I think the state, when they first offered this grant, they probably did it under some duress, trying to get the money out to the locals. And there were some obvious mistakes that we're now clearing up. And the first revision on all those documents is a simple correction on the number of pages contained in the contract. The second modification is the most significant in that it changes the period of time that the Michigan State Police will assume responsibility for costs from the full execution of the agreement under quotation to the start of the start of the period of agreement. And I think that benefits us because it clears that up, and I think there probably might be some expenses outside of that original period. The third and fourth addendum modifications are simply correcting the reference contract attachment numbers. The final clarification is that the Equal Employment Opportunity Plan is not applicable as a requirement of the CESF program. And in total, the contract modifications serve to further the original intent of the grant program and are of benefit to Isabella County. Margaret, would you have anything to add to that?
No, sir, I think you did a great job of capsulizing that. They really were NIFNAs that originated at the Michigan State Police with the document. But again, like you said, they were working very hard to get these funds and these documents out to all of their partners across the state. So again, it's housekeeping.
We'll move this, let's just, additional questions? We'll move this forward then to tonight's meeting.
Okay, item number 5 is consider approving the fiscal year 2020 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding CESF grant contract addendum A between the Michigan State Police and the Isabella County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. So same grant as for the sheriff's office, slightly different amount. It's $42,000, but the addendum contains all the same terms as the previous one that Commissioner Jalzinski explained. So any questions on that one? Okay, hearing none, that'll move forward to tonight's agenda.
And then the last is consider approving the fiscal year 2020 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant contract addendum A between the Michigan State Police and Isabella County Trial Court, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. Again, the dollar amounts are a little bit different, but the purpose of the addendum and the language is similar to the other two items that we just moved forward. Any questions?
We have sorry, this is Commissioner Slaney. Do we have the reason why there's trial courts about 14,000 less? I mean, did they apply for less in the grant, or?
Margaret, are you able to answer that?
You know, I generally try not to speak on behalf of the trial court. I think Carrie is on. Carrie is here. If Carrie, would you be willing to speak to that? All right.
Sure. Our original grant amount was less, but as you'll see, I'm up in a few minutes about more money.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions? We'll move this forward then to tonight's meeting.
Mr. Chairman, that does complete the work of the Finance and Administration Committee.
I got on Jerry a couple times and I did the same darn thing, darn it. Next up, thank you, gentlemen. Next up, Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have two items for today. The first one is considering the fiscal year 2020 amended grant agreement between the Michigan State Police and Isabella County Trial Court in the amount of $89,808 for federal pass-through coronavirus emergency supplementing funding, the CESF, and authorize the board to sign the same. This is an amended. We do have Carrie Curtis here, our court administrator. The 29,808 is part of it is for PPP and supplies, and the other 60 is for drug testing. If you want to explain that a little bit, Carrie, you're more than welcome.
I can certainly do that. So our original grant amount was for $29,808 and only included supplies and some disinfecting and cleaning types of things. As we started to move through, reopening the court and court operations, we quickly figured out that we had more court users who were being ordered on electronic monitoring into drug testing, often as an alternative to jail. They received, lower cash bonds or PR bonds, but these monitors and this testing was a condition of their bond, or at sentencing, the judges were ordering more of that. That wasn't terribly unusual, even though it increased. The problem was our court users couldn't afford to pay for it. So we had the opportunity to use this CESF money to supplement what the county would be paying, or to reimburse the county for what they would be paying when the judges or magistrates and referees order people on these testings and the people are indigent and can't afford it. So this is a great way for us to sort of offset some of that. It's 100% reimbursable. So we're just asking for the chairman to sign that and move forward.
Okay, is there any questions? I do not see any hands.
Commissioner Engler.
Yes.
Chairman Engler.
Chairman.
Carrie, I think in committee I asked you in regards to, because we're decreasing the amount of the bond and also with the personal recognizance release.
Hang on one second.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I apologize.
Yeah, in regards to the decrease in the personal bond and or the personal recognizance as part of bonding and getting out and trying to, because this is being done in regards response to COVID. But as we're building a new jail, we're listing at 187 beds. Is this something we can possibly use as something coming out of the COVID era in regards to not having everyone that goes in, for say a drunk driving or something like that, or it goes in for that, having to spend time in jail, and what is I think we also talked about, what is the recidivism you're finding, people who are released on the lower bonding, what are you seeing in regards to coming out and or not following through, and do they need the Do they need to be incarcerated? What are you seeing in regards to that?
So, some situations require people to go to jail. So I don't see that part changing. There are certain statutes where the judges don't have a lot of discretion. There are some mandatory, you have to serve so many days. I think depending on the situation, our judges will continue to sentence people to jail as they see appropriate. I think there's a lot of pretrial release kind of movements going on, which are pre-sentence movements for people to not sit in jail simply because they can't pay a cash bond. That is affecting, that is also impacting some of this. I would never want to try to speak for the judges or how much time someone's going to spend in jail or the capacity of the jail or anything like that. All I can tell you is that there is a pretrial movement across the United States to try to have people in jail less time for minor offenses at the beginning, So as far as the recidivism rate, I think I mentioned in the committee that the sheriff and I had a brief conversation about we're seeing a lot of people who, during COVID for a multitude of reasons were receiving low cash bonds or personal recognizance bonds. And there could be a lot of reasons why they're repeating, but we're seeing a lot of the same people that we were seeing before. So, it could be, people aren't working, so they don't have a lot of, their time isn't always occupied. So then sometimes they're making other decisions. I think there's a lot of factors besides just COVID, but that certainly has something to do with it.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman Engler.
Yeah, is there any more questions? I guess I don't see any more hands, so we'll move that forward to tonight's meeting.
Thank you.
Great. Sorry. Okay. Item number 2, consider approving the software license and service subscription agreement with Central Square Technologies LLC, pending legal counsel review, and authorize the board chair sign the same. So I think last month we saw this, and it was basically to give them approval to make this agreement with them. And our director of 911 and emergency management, Mr. Griffiths, is here to tell us about it.
Yep, this is the continuation in the process for getting the CAD agreement signed as a contract that's currently at legal review. And this motion that's being considered for approving is to pending the legal review to go ahead and approve it. I also did want to take a second and address Commissioner Engler's questions. The last time we spoke, he had questions about what the third-party costs associated and if there is any examples. I was able to get a couple examples from the vendor, and it was stuff that equipment and stuff we've already had in the basic package. So like our ability to interface with what's called the Annie Alley, which is where we get the number and location information as it comes in, our basic paging, our paging software program, our NCIC, a software we have called Rip and Run, which faxes the fire departments. Those are all considered third-party cost stuff, stuff we've already worked out, so you should have no issues with that. But they're just saying that if we choose to connect this versatile CAD system to any other options that are out there, that cost could be bore upon us is what I got from my explanation. So hope that answers your questions, Commissioner Engler. And if there are any other questions, again, this is just to recommend the considering of approving of it pending legal review.
Any questions?
Thank you. That does answer my question. So,
Commissioner Swaney, if I even.
Chairman Horton.
Yes, thank you. Just real quick, and this is more of a general statement than anything else. Normally, do we always do? I'm not aware of too many situations under pending legal review that we've okayed a contract. I mean, I'm okay with this doing this, just because the central it's pretty a generic term, and I don't think there's much to add. And if they do add something, I don't think it's going to change in regards to the essence of it. I just wanted to point that out. That normally I don't think we would do something until we see a final draft. Is that a correct statement, Margaret, or not?
That is correct. I spoke with legal counsel today, and they had hoped to have it back before the meeting. So we're hoping to be able to maybe change the motion in the amended agenda for today. I didn't receive it back from them before that. So I spoke to the attorney who's handling that for us. She said she doesn't anticipate any major issues. It won't be presented to the board chair for signature until we get it back from them. And, you know, if they look at something and they go, I think this should be, I don't know, you know, some little teeny thing, then I will talk to the chairperson about that and we'll make any adjustment. But I won't be presenting it to you for signature until we get the review back and you have the opportunity to see it.
Yeah, and granted, the type of technology, what this entails is, I don't want to ever use the term boilerplate too much, but I think this is pretty standard, so it's nothing that's earth shattering or anything.
You know, generally in a standard contract, what we generally get back from our attorneys has to do with, you know, the county being indemnified or what the county can be responsible for. So that is kind of a constant that happens. I don't think that there's going to be anything earth shattering that's going to come back, but I would like the motion to say pending legal review because we don't have the legal review back.
Okay, I would agree to that. I don't have any issue with that. Okay. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Commissioner Swaney.
Thank you, Chairman Horton. Any other questions, commissioners? Seeing none, we'll move that forward to the regular session tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the work of the Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next up, Human Resources and Public Works Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our first item tonight is consider approving FY 2021 grant agreement between the Michigan Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency and Isabella County in the amount of $52,350,000 for enhanced veteran services operations and authorize the board chair to sign the same. We have our director, Ian Welch, present. Do we?
I hope so.
There he
I
is.
saw.
There
Okay,
he
great.
is.
Great.
It helps
Could
if
you-
I take my own mute button off. My apologies.
It's okay,
So-
you're in good company. We all do that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the grant that was signed, or I'm sorry, the application was signed in October. We do this every year. It's to increase awareness or outreach to the Veterans Affairs. The state of Michigan has approved $52,350. So basically, this is just the signature for the contract to use the grant. I've actually already got a invoice from Kurt Ads, I think it's called. I can never remember the name of the company. They do the ICTC bus ads for about $32,000. So they've been doing a wonderful service for us and essentially doing it for free since November. So we're going to pay them back to November and going up to September, and we'll do both external and internal ads, which will give us good advertising, and then we'll get one of the electronic boards up on Mission running for ads as well. So as soon as we get that approval, or I should say get the money. So yeah, anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Since we started doing this last year, have you found increased number of veterans coming into the office seeking information on benefits or assistance?
To be honest with you, it's sporadic. People come or they don't. You're asking, has the advertising worked?
Yes.
I'd like to say yes, that would be great. But honestly, I haven't had that many people mention it, surprisingly. I've had a lot of employees mention it, more so, people around the office. I myself have seen the bus ads a lot, but I haven't had any clients. I'd love to lie to you, that'd be great, and say, yeah, every other day I get another person, but no, people haven't said honestly that the bus ads drove them in. So, I guess at this point it's really about saturation. The great thing about the ads would be like during COVID, it's more about that. I think probably the expos and fairs and community things that were pre-COVID would drive people more than anything else. So it's just about saturation, letting people know that the information is here, the office is here. So.
Thank you. I know as a veteran that I get a lot of ads from the state VA informing of benefits and services that are available. So I think it's a good outreach, and hopefully you can bring in more veterans that typically are less likely to want to seek public help, but hopefully this will reach out to some of them. Thank you.
Absolutely. The idea is hopefully we can actually target a younger audience who say, hey, grandma or grandpa, you're eligible for things. It's kind of that ancillary or tertiary or, secondary way to get to people as much as possible.
We have a,
Commissioner Horton.
yes, thank you.
Sure.
Real quick, Mr. Welch, in regards to the Meyer, hold on one second.
The voucher program?
In regards to the voucher, are the vouchers used for food services, not services, but foods, products? What exactly are those vouchers? And what's the average voucher that normally someone would receive or ask for? What are you seeing?
The program wasn't used a whole lot because it went kind of under the radar, unfortunately, there wasn't much way to advertise it. It was available if people were here to use it. But the idea, the state of Michigan actually put $100 vouchers, or it could be either 50 or 100. It's to be used for, I think, it says right on the voucher, food, I think paper products or personal care products, I think something like that. It's listed on the voucher. It's an agreement the state of Michigan has with Meyer, so we don't have to do any of the counting. It's easy for them. The person isn't able to buy things they're not able to buy. It's listed right on the voucher. So basically, if they need money for something else, they can basically put that money aside and use it for those personal things instead of something else where they put the money towards something else versus that cost. So does that better answer your question?
Yeah. How user friendly is that, for lack of a better term? What are the requirements, or just basically asking for it, or how does that normally work? The state of Michigan lets us define the program. So I'm basically any active duty veteran is eligible. I kind of restricted it to COVID if they lost their job or lost income or something like that, because we just put $5,000 towards it this year. So it should be plenty to cover it. Hopefully, because what I saw is not now, but when unemployment runs out, if stimulus didn't happen, I mean, obviously when I requested this, I couldn't predict what was going to happen in the future, but the idea was it would supplement anybody who had a loss of income due to COVID. And you said that was active duty?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That was all, Mr. Chairman Marino.
Okay. If we don't have any more questions on that, that'll be on tonight. And Commissioner Hutchinson, can you take the next item, please? You're muted. Muted. There you go.
All right. Consider approving the $2 per hour temporary permission pay for the Commission on Aging direct care workers, and authorize the board chairperson to sign direct care work wage passes through the documentation forms for the month of October, November, and December 2020.
We have the director, Jen Crawford, here to explain this further, right?
Sure. Thank you. So once again, Area Agency on Aging has received funding to be able to provide the premium pay for direct care workers, temporary again. This time we did have it for July, August, and September. And so now this has been extended for October, November, December. This does go for our direct care workers only. So our personal care aides, respite care aides, and homemaker aides. And it is for the direct time that they are with clients. And the funding that we received to do this would also cover the payroll taxes for the county. So we will have 9 staff that will benefit from this premium pay, 1 full-time, 8 part-time, and totaling $3,100.86.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments on that last item? Seeing none, that will conclude the work of the Human Resources and Public Works Committee at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. I have to apologize to Vice Chairman Hope. Rookie mistake on my part. Intergovernmental Affairs, I did not ask you if there was anything on it. I assuming there wasn't, but I did not ask that question. So now I guess I'm going to ask anything was on that.
There was not.
All right.
Thanks for asking.
So my rookie mistake, thank you. All right, moving up to administrator controller, there's nothing listed. Now we'll move to unfinished business, which we have nothing, new business, nothing. Nicole, let's move back to general public comment. Is there anybody on the line that you know of?
There is, Mr. Chairman. We do have a caller on the line that has raised their hand. They would
All right,
like-
I will just add that, as I said earlier tonight, we're going to limit that to 3 minutes. And then after I make the announcement on 3 minutes, there'll be about a 5-second delay. So caller, please go ahead and state your name and address, please.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Brian Mogenberg. I live on Shepherd Road here in Chippewa Township in Isabella County. And I first want to thank you all. I commend you, especially Jerry Jalovinsky. You had placed a letter to the editor in the Morning Sun for the nonpartisan role that you have taken with everything that's happened. I really do think that's great. I thank you for your service, and I thank all of you for the leadership roles that you take. And now more than ever, and I see it as just a regular Joe citizen in this community, there's a lot of leadership in guidance that our community needs right now. I'm going to gather that, and I tried to send it to everybody earlier that was on the board, some of the forum talk that happened from an ad that was actually placed in the Morning Sun. Was anybody able to receive that information that I sent?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to send that so you can all see a little bit of what's happening in the community, and I'm sure that you're all very well aware of it. Obviously, I'm guessing whoever it was that placed that ad was doing it because of a partisan role that they're taking. I'm going to gather it was a Democratic role. But my point is that our community is very divided. And with the division of politics and the division that's taking place right now with COVID, speaking specifically to our county with COVID, I'm just curious where we stand as a board with finances and how we're helping. I mean, I can give you death numbers that have arisen by COVID, but what are we doing to begin the process to determine the other factors of the epidemic, including education and unemployment, suicide, homicide, drug and alcohol use, domestic violence? I can tell you personally, as a business owner, not only have I experienced all of these things with myself and with my family, but I get to see so many different areas of employment that people have where I get to see other families that are affected by all of these as well. So as the leaders in our community, do we have a process to determine how all of these other factors that are with the epidemic, and obviously our health department decides, you know, that we're going to also continue to close down. Hopefully on February 1st, we're opening back up. So I know that there's a lot going on, and I know that there's a lot of stances that you can or maybe cannot take, but can anybody help give any of us some light and direction on where we're moving to help in all of these other areas besides, like, I guess, the totality of health versus just health in general being life or death?
Okay, I'm going to call the 3-minute time, and I will just also state that I did not state, Ms. Muggenberg, and I do apologize, that the commissioners would not be responding. That's part of our normal processes. It's public comment only, and there's no response. So I am sorry again that I did not state that, but at this time you did exceed the 3-minute limit. So I do apologize for that. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, there is no other public comment.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, we'll close the general public comment and move to announcements. Commissioners, any announcements? Commissioner Sweeney, go ahead.
I think as leaders, we do have to reference what happened on January 6th. And I don't think it needs to be partisan. I think that we need to look at this as a democracy, a government that was under siege. And we were doing a constitutional process. Mike Pence, the vice president, was in procedures to accept our votes, and rioters sieged the Capitol and stopped that vote or tried to stop it, and tried to stop our election process. It's something we need to recognize, that was obviously an illegal way to do things, and that the process was happening legally, even if we had senators who were not accepting votes and calling for a vote. And that's legal process. We had basically an event that was domestic terrorism. I mean, there was a bomb left in the Capitol. This is referenced right in Wikipedia. An improvised explosive device was left after people left. This is something that needs to be addressed, and we need to have accountability. Otherwise, every time that we have a transition of power, we're going to have, this type of situation come up, because if we don't have accountability, it's shown that it's accepted, and we can't accept it. And I just want everyone to know that even though this is, county commission, and we do things as a group, we don't have a lot of issues. This was a significant event that will be documented in history. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Slaney. Any other commissioner? Commissioner Moreno?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Swaney. I think it's important that we note that what went on the 6th was wrong. We should condemn it. It was undemocratic. It was domestic terrorism. Also, that we acknowledge that all the votes in our state and our county were certified, that the election was fair and accurate, and that we should condemn anyone that tries to undermine our election and our democratic process.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Moreno. Commissioner Jelesinski.
I prepared just a brief written statement, and I think under the bylaws, I have the right to ask this to be put into the minutes. The text found in the January 13th edition of the Morning Sun paid has been contained words meant to capture the high ground and what constitutes unpatriotic and unacceptable behavior by public officials. Words and phrases such as patriotic, must choose America, strong moral character, the common good, set aside personal interests and desire for power, and commit to healing our country are meaningless if not applied in a consistent, lawful, and fair manner. The emphasis of the paid advertisement is on the violent actions of some who participated in the Washington, D.C. political rally on January 6th. As a Republican, I am embarrassed by what happened. Such behavior is uncommon for Republican events. Yes, any who broke the laws of peaceful assembly should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The problem I have with the advertisement and its narrow application to one Republican event is the nation has experienced a number of unpatriotic and destructive events during the past 4 years, events that harm this nation's governance and cause damage to the unity and well-being of the Republic. Several examples include Democratic operatives concocting a false narrative, Russian collusion by Donald Trump to falsely accuse and attempt to damage Donald Trump in his presidential election bid. The narrative continued into the Trump administration. Following a lengthy investigation and finding of no collusion, Democratic members of Congress failed to offer an apology. Next one, failing on the conclusion charge in year 3 of the Trump administration, the House of Representatives voted to impeach President Trump on a purely partisan vote. This in spite of the fact the charge was without merit and the Senate would never vote to impeach. Speaker of the House Pelosi proclaimed proudly that the President Trump would go down in history as being impeached. In year 4 of the Trump administration, during the State of the Union address, Speaker of the House Pelosi on national television, seen by millions of viewers, physically tore up her copy of President Trump's speech. In year 4 of the Trump administration, some of the largest cities experienced riots that caused human suffering and huge economic loss to private and public property. Democratic leaders in those cities not only did not allow the federal government to intervene, but also failed to act locally, which resulted in unnecessary and sustained human suffering. Throughout President Trump's administration, a number of Democratic-controlled states and cities declared they would not cooperate with federal authorities in the enforcement of federal immigration laws. Some even acted to resist enforcement. I would like patriotic citizens of Isabella County or any person to explain to me why the above examples should not be viewed as unpatriotic and destructive to the well-being of our nation and citizens. Many believe the actions were taken by elected officials who failed to set aside personal interests and desire for power. These are not examples that contribute to the healing of our country. Actions are more meaningful than words. Even with a politically divided electorate, we need to work together to uphold this Constitution, this nation's Constitution, Bill of Rights, laws, and civil traditions. If we don't, the 240-year-old experiment of government by the people, for the people, will end in failure. And the only other comment I will make is I did take a look at Brianne Muggenberg's email to us, and I kind of read through all 3 or 4 pages of the comments made concerning this particular editorial. And one that stands out is the very last one, where the person's holding their head and saying, to all, exhausted. We don't need this at the level of the county board. Thank you. And I will email a copy of this to administration for inclusion in the minutes.
Other commissioners? Hearing no other commissioners. I just want to say thanks for the commissioners all of you commissioners. I know that did not speak. I think what's happened in the last, since we had our organizational meeting, what's happened in this country, and it's not during this time frame, but other time frames. I think it's important that we recognize everyone's voice on this committee, on this board. Everyone has a different voice. Everyone has a right to state their voice. I am the first one to be loud and proud and obnoxious at times when I speak. And, I think everyone has that right to do that. But what we have to do is remember, as our board, that's a good thing. That's a good thing that we have differences of opinion. That's a good thing that we don't have a group think involved. Going forward, as this board goes, we've got a lot of issues in front of us. We've got a $30 million, $40 million project that's on the horizon that's going to be not only on the horizon now, but in the horizon for the next 50 to 60 years. We've got some other issues going on with the county that's very important. So we've got to work together as a board. I think that's very good that we've been able to air some things out, talk some things, make some statements. Nothing wrong with that. Encourage further down the road as we go forward as commissioners to have our opinions, to have our statements, to be involved in the community. Each one of us have constituents that we answer to along with ourselves. Every day when we look in the mirror, I think it's important that we can say, we're doing the best that we can do, and we're doing it for our community. Each one of us gives up time to do what they think is best. And Administrator McAvoy, we in our frequent discussions in the last 2 weeks. And by the way, I came up with a saying. I know why David Ling and George Green, one had a flip phone and one didn't have a cell phone. I realized that now why they didn't. But the interesting thing is, every night, all of us do something. We all are passionate about what we do. All are passionate about what we say. And why do we do the things that we do on this board? Again, I encourage everyone to have a say, encourage everyone to speak out. It's a good thing. Don't hold back your comments. Don't hold back your positions, because that's how we grow. Differences of opinion is good. And this board, I think, is going to function very well together. So again, that's really all I have to say in my public comment. Now, a couple other statements in regards to moving on. I do want to point out, and this is a really sad note, I do want to call attention to the fact that we lost a former county commissioner. I believe it was last year, actually, at the end of December. Ron Roby passed away. I'd like to acknowledge that he was a county commissioner for 2 terms, from 1/1 of 05 to 12/31 of 08. And the reason I say this is I knew Ron not only from a commission basis, from a personal basis as far as what I do for a living and for a profession. I always found Ron to be entertaining and a nice person. Him and I got along very well. And yeah, again, I commend anybody that does anything for the community and does it unselfishly. Ron is opinionated. I'm opinionated. We're all opinionated. But we recognize that this community, we have to be do what's best. So again, he's going to be missed as far as I'm concerned. I really enjoyed Ron. I mean, I did like the man. He was a very good person. So I don't think there was a lot else. I think there was one other issue, and I'm sorry I didn't write it down. I'll cover it in tonight's announcements. But again, it's just that puts it into perspective for me. Looking at someone like Mr. Roby, there also was another former council person or city chairman that passed away. We're all one community. We all run into each other at Rick's. We all run into each other at Myers. We see each other on baseball. Well, I don't see each other on baseball fields anymore, but we are, Commissioner Swaney and I play hockey. We're very aggressive, and this is a fun community, and I'm very proud to live in it. And I'm looking forward to the next few years. We've got a lot of work to do as commissioners, and I think this board is one that can work very well together and get a lot accomplished. So I thank each and every one of you for doing what you do. Thank you. And with that, I don't think, do I have to take a motion to adjourn? No, I think I can do it, the adjournment of the chair. I'll call the meeting to the final at 5:29, I think it is. So I'll pound my Swiss Army knife. So thank you all.
Good night.
All right. See you guys in an hour and a half. Thank you.
Yep.